For your ex to conclude that getting back with you is a desirable and worthwhile outcome, they must successfully go through the following few stages. Now, some exes go through them faster, others slower. Some decide they don't want you back in the end, others decide that they do. Keep this in mind, very important, because every breakup is different, and your ex's feelings towards you change unexpectedly, or at least can change. So again, take note of this. In this video, I will simply describe and talk about the pattern I keep seeing over and over again. These stages that I will go through, they will not always unfold in this same way. This was basically what I'm trying to say. But it is something that I see time and time again, so let's get right into it. Starting with stage 0, no contact. So no contact is kind of like this prerequisite for initiating your ex's stage hopping process. And this is essentially when you, after the breakup, take a period during which you do not interact with your ex. No calls, no text messages, no touching, nada, nothing. Now, I recommend you make this period indefinite, meaning that once you break up with your ex, you let them go forever, you act like they're never coming back, and the only time you give them another shot is when they reach out first. And when they do that, when they do reach out first, granted it's about something personal, not something tied to logistics like kids, pets, living arrangements, and so on, at that point, you invite them on a date. And from there on out, you start the reattraction process, which I will not go into in this video. But you can check out my video on how to get an ex back that I will link right here on the screen right now if you want to go deeper into that aspect of the topic. But to kind of get back to the point, generally the more physical and emotional distance you put through no contact between your ex and yourself, the higher the likelihood is that they will go through the other stages of getting back together that I will go through faster. Whereas the less distance there is between you two, the slower it'll probably take them to go through those stages, again, if they do go through them at all. So now let's get into the actual stages, right? Starting with number 1, relief. Now during this first stage of getting back together, your ex will feel immense relief. They will feel as though you didn't understand them. They will feel as though you took them for granted. They will usually even feel you obstructed their personal growth and only complicated their life. And then to prove to themselves how difficult being with you was, and maybe it really was, they will usually tell friends and family how difficult you were and how happy and at peace they are now that you are finally out of the picture. I know you want your ex to feel like shit, but you need to accept this situation. Regardless of how you look at your dead relationship right now, your ex felt this internal struggle when they were with you. They were unhappy and felt like they needed to change that feeling, which meant dumping you. In fact, your ex probably thought about breaking up with you months or even weeks before they actually pulled the plug, and may have even considered other romantic options during that time. So if you weren't a good partner, they likely felt they could even get someone else who would take way better care about them. Now, as horrible as all of this sounds, please don't take it personally. It's human nature. We all tend to compare our current partners with potential partners. And the worst mistake you can make during this initial stage is chasing your ex, because it will only make them more hostile, angry, and bitter towards you. I mean, think about it. You guys are on the totally opposite side of the spectrum. You want them back, and they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to be near you even, at least This is the case for most people. Moving on to stage 2, it's all about elation, or this free at last feeling. Basically, your ex is happy, they feel like they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, with whoever they want, and without any real consequences since they are single, and this is very much true. So they may start going to bizarre venues that they never have been interested in before. They may begin to post things on social media that they have never posted before. Things like quotes on empowerment, provocative and very sexy pictures, or exciting updates from their life, and so on. They may even start dating more than usual, and they might even fundamentally change their entire character or personality over time. In a way, your ex is rediscovering and reinventing themselves during this stage. And while there is a chance that they're putting up a facade and just are pretending to be over you, to make you jealous, or they're pretending to be happy, there's also a really damn good chance that they're authentically enjoying themselves and their newfound freedom. So stay as realistic as possible during this stage and don't take your ex's behaviors too seriously. They don't necessarily mean they're having a blast out there, nor do they mean that they're miserable. More often than not, the truth is kind of buried somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. So let them have their fun, don't interfere. If you reach out now, they'll just think, great, I'm dating all these other great people, wonderful people, and I can also have my ex. So I can basically make them a plan B, and I can also continue dating these other people. That's not a position you want to be in, believe me. It shows a very much lack of self-respect, and it will eventually turn your ex off if you start to be very pushy about it, if you start to be very open and able and willing to be a plan B. So just keep a note of that. To move on to stage 3, it's the comparison stage. So after the elation, the excitement, and the freedom of doing whatever the hell they want, when those feelings kind of wither away, then comes comparison. And during this comparison stage, your ex will, as the name implies, rapidly compare you with their dates, making them way more likely to become curious about you. And when they do become curious, they could also start thinking about you more. They could start checking your social media profiles. They could start stalking you, blocking and unblocking you, and so on. And if you stayed in no contact till this stage, if you guys have not communicated, your ex might even start going to places you went to together to remember and kind of reminisce the good times you shared, partly to indulge in memories, partly to grieve. And if you give them enough space, they will also begin to think about your relationship with way more clarity, with way more nostalgia and fondness, and less anger and blame and resentment. They may even realize that it's not all your fault and that they were also to blame for the breakup. These things then all lead to higher attraction on their part, and they leap into the 4th stage of getting back together, one of the most critical ones on our list. It's called the grieving/regret stage. Now, during this stage, sadness and this sense of loss will start to take over your ex's mind. Now, this is a fact because loss is never a neutral feeling. We as humans were wired to think of it as bad and dangerous, and we always tend to avoid it. So eventually, your ex will become sad, they will start to grieve exhaustively, and it's during these crucial moments that they may build up enough emotion, enough attraction to react to one of your social media posts, to watch one of your stories, and finally, reach out. But if they do, they usually won't just say, let's get back together, although that does happen, or they won't just say, I miss you, I love you, can I see you, although that does again sometimes happen, but usually that's terrifying. Your ex doesn't know if you're angry with them, and they probably don't want to risk rejection or embarrassment. Therefore, they will usually reach out in these more subtle, indirect ways by saying something like, "This movie reminded me of you," by texting you how it's going, by telling you, "Hey, I found XYZ at my place, do you want it back?" Or by texting or saying something like, "Do you remember that restaurant that we ate together for our first date?" Yada yada yada. You get the point. These are all excuses if it isn't obvious already. If your ex reaches out to you in this personal way that's revolving around you as a person, not logistics like pets, kids, living arrangements and everything like that, it's a good sign of interest. It's a good sign that your ex is perhaps ready to, if not give you another chance, just start dating you casually again. But anyway, do not get sidetracked. These sorts of indirect contacts, they are excuses, meaning your ex is simply looking for a reason to contact you without saying anything that's too emotionally difficult or risky. That's why they do these sorts of subtle contacts in the first place, either through messages or usually through phone calls as well. And look, while it's not the most mature thing to hear or witness, it's at least something. And sometimes that's the only thing that I guess, breadcrumb that you will get. So as a rule of thumb, when you hear from your ex, invite them out on a date as soon as reasonable. Then have fun, hook up, and ease into this more intimate and connected relationship. Through, of course, continuous dating. And this is also when stage 5 comes into play, the last stage of getting an ex back, which is all about getting to know each other again. As you'd expect, this is also not only the last stage, it's the most exciting one. And it starts as soon as you and your ex have that first handful of successful interactions and you start dating. At this point, all you need to do is reconnect. They've probably had their fair share of experiences since the breakup, and you hopefully had some as well. Talk about them, connect over them, bring your shared values and beliefs to the forefront, and connect even more over those. And when I say connect, I mean not connect digitally or like through messages, I mean just emotionally connect when you're having one-to-one in real life interactions. And in general, just have fun. Don't get pissed off, sulky, or offended. Keep things lighthearted even. Sure, deep breakup related topics are okay to discuss, but just keep things hopeful. You want to maintain an attitude of, we'll make it work. Don't worry, we're a team, we got this. Instead of just whining and being all sulky about your situation. And don't forget to get sexual. As I suggested earlier, you're not rekindling anything until you guys are both having continuous sex. Then after a few weeks or months of casual dating, you should, in brief, ideally transition to a committed relationship and take it from there. But that's a topic for another video. That's it for this one. If you want to go deeper into my process for getting an ex back, if you want to learn a bunch of tips and advice on how to actually go about the whole thing, download my reattraction cheat sheet, link in the description below this video. That's it. Take care.